multiple training series on managing Microsoft Teams MS-700. I'm Monica from TechnoFocus, and I will be serving as your moderator today. We're glad to have Johan Nickel with us, who will be presenting today's session. He is a certified Microsoft 365 trainer and passionate senior cloud solution architect with great experience in developing and integrating applications with Azure Active Directory. He is currently based in Switzerland. If you happen to face any audio or video issues during the webcast or have any technical questions, please post them in the Q&A panel and our team is here to help you. Now I'd like to turn today's event over to our presenter. Johan, you have the floor now.
Welcome to Day 5 of Managing Microsoft Teams Virtual Training Series. My name is Jochen Nickel. I'm a solution architect and Microsoft trainer. Today we will focus on the management of communication options in Microsoft Teams. So let's start with a session to manage the communication settings in Microsoft Teams. In the first section of this module we will talk about the management of live events and meeting experiences. Basically there are two ways to meet in Microsoft Teams: meetings and live events. So we talk short about meetings in Teams that include, for example, audio, video and screen sharing for up to 300 people. They're one of the key ways to collaborate in Teams. And you don't need to be a member of an organization or even have a Teams account itself to join a Teams meeting. So just look in the invitation for instruction and start about calling. The next part is the live event. So live events are an extension of the Teams meeting itself, and they enable you to schedule and produce events that stream to large online audiences, for example up to 10,000 people. So if you need a meeting for more than 300 people, just use a live event. A short side note on that, for Teams for Government, GCC, GCC High or DoD, the limit is 250. Okay, let's start with the introduction to Teams meetings and conferencing. Once you have set up Teams channels and applications with Microsoft Teams, the next step you can take is really to add and customize the meeting settings and policies for audio conferencing, video and sharing. There are different types of meetings that you can create in Microsoft Teams depending on the nature of the meeting. First of all, there's a private meeting. A private meeting is when you want to have a meeting with an individual people, but you do not want the meeting to be visible to others. A channel meeting, in this perspective, is scheduled in Microsoft Teams, and all the team members are automatically invited from this team and will have access to the discussion and the recording. Obviously, the meeting should be recorded in that case. Then we have also the ad hoc meeting, the Meet Now option. So when you want to meet immediately at the current point in time, so without a previously scheduled meeting, this is the right option for you. So people can join meetings also from variety of clients. For example, by using audio conferencing, users can attend meetings from regular phones by dialing into the meeting itself. The Teams admin, you can enable or disable certain types of meetings in addition to disabling modalities such as video or screen sharing. It's according to your organization regulations, for example. Since there is an integration between the Office 365 tools such as Microsoft Outlook, you also can use an add-in to schedule Teams meetings directly from your calendar. So based on your company needs and requirements, you can configure the appropriate settings for the meetings and conferencing which your employees are going to use in Microsoft Teams. Because this communication workspace offers you so many options and advantages, it is very important for you as an administrator to review and confirm that your environment is properly configured to provide your employees the best possible experience. The scale meetings across your organization, you should really ensure that all user locations have internet access and are able to connect to Office 365. Also determine whether your network is ready for a deployment of Microsoft Teams meetings. This we have already discussed in the prerequisites in the first and second session as well. Also determine, or decide better saying, which users are going to be responsible for Teams meetings and need to be assigned the following roles, like the Teams Communications Administrator, the Teams Communications Support Engineer, and the Teams Communications Support Specialist. We already had a discussion about these specific roles in the past. Teams provides a great out-of-the-box meeting and conferencing experience, and most organizations find that the default meeting settings work well for them. But depending on your organization needs, you may maybe decide to change some or all of the default settings. There are some meetings and conferencing prerequisites, obviously. To get the best Teams experience, you must have deployed Exchange Online and SharePoint Online, and have a verified domain for your Microsoft 365, such as yourorganization.com. Why? Because we have Exchange Online and SharePoint Online as an underlying service of the Microsoft Teams capabilities, and this is why it's very important really to have these services in place, because you will be in a reduced state if you have not all the services completed and implemented inside of your organization. Furthermore, you also need to make sure that the following ports are open to the internet from your user's location. The one is the TCP port 80N443, outgoing from the clients that will use Teams, and the UDP ports 3478 through 3481. They are outgoing from the clients that will use Teams in that case. Additionally, obviously, you need to take some core deployment decisions. We see that in the slide deck. We have the Teams administrator role. So the Teams provides this specific administrator roles, what we have already talked about, and you need really to decide how you use them inside of your organization and how you manage Teams for your organization itself. So the roles provide obviously various capabilities like the Teams communication, the support engineer, the support specialist, and the Teams services admin. So you really need to see about the relevant ones I already mentioned before. That's the communications admin, the support engineer, and the support specialist, which the difference is laying down in the advanced or basic tools from the specialist part for the basic tools and the engineer for the more advanced or complex scenarios that you need to manage inside of your org. Then the meeting settings that are used to really control, you can access as an anonymous user in a meeting, or how the setup runs for meeting invitations, and obviously set the ports for real-time traffic. And otherwise always it's a good idea to use quality of service to really get the best quality out of your environment. And this specific settings here, they will be used really to the Teams meetings, and you need to be aware about all the topics, but we will discuss this in a few moments as well. So the meeting policies, they're specifically used to control which specific features are available. So when the user joins to the team meeting, so you can also create custom ones for people that host meetings in your organization. Then we have the audio conferencing policies, which is necessary by allowing the meetings, the participants to join via a public switch telephone network, that's called PSTN, using, for example, a traditional landline or a private branch exchange like a PBX or a mobile phone, for example. The meeting room and the personal device policies obviously is what you can use. Room system, for example, a phone, a headset, which camera types, that you have a real great option to know what's happening to go. Furthermore, you should really think about the different additional deployment decisions, like the bandwidth planning. We already talked about that a lot before, that you provide the correct or the best bandwidth that you can for your environment. There are no blockers in proxy servers or any network components that really limit your bandwidth inside of your organization. On the other hand, the meeting recording and archiving topic, so how you capture audio, video, about the screen sharing activity, and an automatic transcription, for example, that are features that are really relevant you need to think about when you plan your deployment. Then about the live events policies, like the team live events policies, which allow you to provide specific event settings for a group of users, for example. The conference room system rollout, that you are aware about how big is the room, for what the room is mainly used. Do you need a camera here, a specific monitoring environment, monitor, for example, Surface Hub, or any other thing what you need to have inside of a room. So really be aware that you have a good assessment of the needs of the specific conference rooms before you start the system rollout. Also the cloud video interoperation, so it makes it really possible to third-party meeting room devices to join a Teams meeting, because not everyone uses Teams and have another specific room device, for example, and you can work with that and work without an expensive meeting room system and the device upgrade. So that's quite a good point as well for mergers or any other kind of structure building inside of your org. The personal device rollout in this specific part obviously is about to support the meetings and the voice deployments. So really consider a repeatable side-by-side rollout process in your kind. Then to troubleshoot meeting and call quality, really Teams gives you a lot of great capabilities, and the call analytics shows really the detailed information about the devices, networks, and the connectivity related to the specific calls and meetings for each user. And it's designed also to help user administrator or a help desk agent to troubleshoot the call quality problems. Specifically, the call quality dashboard helps administrators and network engineers to optimize a network by shifting the focus from the specific users and instead looks at the aggregated information for an entire Teams organization. So what does it mean in specific? You take really a great look about the device itself, the network conditions. Is it on a Wi-Fi? Is it on a VPN? Is it on an internal network? And you really see all the stuff what is happening inside of your organization. That gives you a great and deep insight of this information. Also, we operate the meeting services, so it's also in-deep guidance for the service operations itself. Also, you need to keep care about the licensing options, so that you really check you are well licensed for the audio conferencing and all the other stuff that we need to know. Another important task is to use the activity reports. Obviously, we have a lot of reports inside of our Microsoft Teams environment, like a Teams usage report that gives you an overview of the usage activity in Teams itself, that we have seen in the collaboration part as well. The Teams user activity report, what's going on, how much usage we have really on the specific part. Teams live event usage report, which gives you an overview of the activity for live events specifically. And there are many more usage reports, like the PSTN usage reports for calling plans and direct routing. Specifically, what we need to take a look on it is that the low usage means that the users aren't using the product. So maybe they face some problems, they have not great user requirements, that they are not fulfilled and have no awareness about it, no training, and a lot of quality problems. The biggest problem in Microsoft Teams is that we have a lot of technology inside, and the deployment is not a really big deal. Yes, of course we need to do a lot of things, but the main part is really to bring the awareness in a company, so that the people know how they can work with this new technology, how they can use it, how they can improve their work style, moving from calls away to some meetings to a live event or such a thing, this needs really training and coaching on site. And on the other hand, obviously, low quality also could be that you have connectivity problems through your Microsoft 365 environment. You don't have the right bandwidth in place, or any other kind of problems like proxies or something like that. From my experience, this is a lot of time, such a feature set that decreases the quality inside of a Microsoft Teams environment. With the meeting policies, you can permit and or restrict features that will be available to users during the meetings and audio conferencing. So you first must decide if you're going to customize the initial meeting policies and whether you need multiple meeting policies. Then obviously you must determine which groups of users receive which meeting policy. And finally, you must determine whether your organization must purchase and deploy room system devices for your specific conferencing rooms. As we can see here, we have different kinds of policies, so per organizer. So all the meeting participants inherit the policy of the organizer. Then the per user perspective is when you implement this, the policy restricts the features for the organizer and or the meeting participants. Or you can combine the two methods to say, okay, when you implement a specific combination, certain features are restricted for the meeting participants and obviously organizer for that. So both are really affected on this specific topic, and this gives you a great capability set to say what's happening inside of specific meeting in your environment. To change or to create a meeting policy, you can do that in the Microsoft Teams Admin Center under the meeting section, and then you just select the meeting policies. So you click on the add command, and then on the new meeting policy page you can enter the following stuff like the name and description, what you want to use there. Then you have the 4 sections you can turn off or on. That's the allow meet now in channels, allow Outlook it in, allow channel meeting scheduling, and allow the scheduling private message meetings. This is what you exactly see here inside of these topics. That's about the general settings. So for example, allow meet now is a policy which is applied before starting the meetings, and it has a per user model. So this policy basically controls whether the user can start a meeting in a Teams channel without the meeting have been previously scheduled. That's basically the stuff what you need to know about this, because it's an ad hoc meeting and it's quite easy. Another one is allow the channel meeting scheduling. With this option, then the schedule a meeting option is not going to be available to the user when they start a meeting in a Teams channel. And the select a channel to meet option will also not be available to the user when they schedule a meeting in Microsoft Teams. Under the audio video section, we have also 3 options to turn on, to turn off: to allow transcription, to allow cloud recording, and the allow IP video, and the media bitrate in kilobytes per second. So for example, if the policy setting is turned on for allow cloud recording and the user is authenticated as a user from the same organization, then the recording can be started by the meeting organizer or by another meeting participant. This only concerns the internal users, so the guest user do not have permission to start or stop a recording. Under the content sharing settings, we have the entire screen sharing, the single application sharing, and to disable that. I see a lot of organizations, they stop the screen sharing. I don't know it's really the best option for security reasons. Maybe it's better to think about other concepts, because it's a quite handy functionality that you can really just show your screen, show your information, and it improves really the work style. So it's my opinion, but maybe for really some security reason it makes sense to configure that. Also, we have the section on the allow a participant to give or request control, or allow an external participant to give or request control, the PowerPoint sharing, the whiteboard sharing, and the allow shared notes. So for example, if I have allow a participant to give or request control settings and whether the user can give control of the shared desktop or window to other participants who are also present in the meeting itself. Then under the participants and guests, we had the features let anonymous people start a meeting, allow dial-in users to bypass the lobby, meet now in private meetings. You can also do a lot of other things, how to admit people, how to enable live captions and allow chat in meetings, for example. On the next slide, we see how we can manage the meeting settings specifically. We have the capability to really give this anonymous user access. We can define the email invitation, a logo URL, a legal URL, a help URL, and a specific footer on that. And obviously we can do some configurations on the network side. So that's basically the quality of service marker and the specified ports for that. If you go to the exam, I recommend to you that you really check these ports because they will be asked. It's about 50,000 to 50,019 for the audio, then the port 6007 and the screen sharing port 6999. So have also a look on that specific topic when you really go to the exam itself. Basically, the participant option is also available there, and really double check if you really want to anonymous user access on that topic. In Microsoft Teams, users can record their Teams meeting and the group's calls to capture the audio, video and screen sharing activity. And there's also an option for automatic transcription for recording so that the users can play back meeting recordings with closed captions and search for important discussion items in the transcript. I feel this is a really great topic what we can do, and is based on Microsoft Streams where the recording are saved then. So you can really share it securely across your organization with the Microsoft Stream version itself. It gives you a real great capability to do. And it's also good for team meetings. I personally use that because if if someone is not available and I just record the meeting and all the topics around, this gives the participant who was not able to attend a great capability to feel really the whole meeting itself and to make it familiar with the different topics that was discussed in the specific meeting. So the meeting recordings are specifically considered as a tenant-owned content. So if the owner of the recording leaves the organization, the administrator can access you and delete the recording and update any recording metadata or change the permissions for the recording video. Microsoft Teams offers user chat-based collaboration, calling meetings and live events, and the live event is created for one-to-many communications where the host of the event leads the interactions and audience participation is primarily geared to viewing the content shared by a host. The attendees can watch the live or the recorded event in Jammer, Teams and or Stream, and they can also interact with the presenters using a moderated Q&A. Microsoft uses this very often. I also use that. It's a really great way to present to a lot of people, and you allow, for example, to provide a Q&A for that. And also a Jammer conversation. So for live events, Microsoft Teams provides an option really that enables you to expand the meeting audience by broadcasting video and meeting content online to large audiences of up to 10,000 participants. That's a really great way. To schedule a Teams live event, it's a very easy process because you just go to Teams, select the calendar from the left panel, and in the upper right corner of the next screen choose New Meeting Live Event. And the meeting title, date and date, time, information and other details need to be provided. And then you start inviting directly the people to your event group box. So add the names of your event group, the people who are presenting and producing the event. So the event group can consist of anyone inside or outside your organization. That's a great opportunity to go for. And you just don't invite attendees at this point. You'll get a link to share with them later. So just click next afterwards, and under the live event permissions choose who can attend to your live event. Make the selections and how you will produce your specific live event. Then schedule to add the event to your and your events group's calendars. That's the basic process you go through when you schedule a Teams live event. Specifically, if we talk about the recording, we have the 5 specific options. The recording is available to producers and presenters. It's a recording that's available to producers for download for 180 days after the event is over. The recording is available to attendees. The attendees can watch the event on demand using DVR options for also 180 days. And the captions that are available to the event participants, and the attendee engagement report, which is a real great report that you can build up a complete documentation in a few clicks as well. That helps you really to track the attendee participations and brings all the effects in the game. Combined also as well with the Q&A, where the attendees can interact with the producers and presenters in a moderated Q&A. It's a very really helpful topic to go forward. Also, another decision is how you record, maybe with an external app or a device. Then you have just a recording that is available to the attendees. This is automatically checked and cannot be unchecked. Attendees can watch the event on demand using the DVR options until the event recording is really explicitly deleted by the owner in Microsoft Stream. The other hand, we have the captions that are also available, and also the Q&A that helps you exactly with this feature. So Microsoft Stream really powers live events produced outside of Teams. So you as an organizer need a valid Stream license to produce an event that specific way. Audio conferencing is the ability to join a Teams meeting from a regular phone and call out from a meeting to a phone number. So it allows your users to call into meetings when they can't use a Teams client. Up to 250 attendees can attend a Teams audio conference. So calling is also known as dialing in to meetings is really a very useful topic for users who are on the road and can't attend the meeting using the Microsoft Teams app itself on their laptops or mobile devices. Though there are also additional scenarios I see in which using a phone to attend a Microsoft Teams meeting can be really a better option than to using an app on a computer. For example, when you have limited internet connectivity, when a meeting is audio only, or when there's an inability to join really to Microsoft Teams. The specific advantages are that the call quality is better when calling in, and people can join a meeting hands-free using Bluetooth devices. And people maybe find it easier and more convenient for their situation. You just need to only set up the audio conferencing for people who plan to schedule or lead meetings. One audio conferencing license is required for each person who is going to schedule, host an audio meeting. So meeting attendees who call in don't need any license assigned to them or any other setup. And after attendees have joined the meeting, they can also call out and invite other callers into the Microsoft Teams meeting itself. Obviously there are a few conferencing prerequisites we need to arrange and we need to work with. So before you can set up the audio conferencing for Teams, you just ask you the following question. So is audio conferencing available for my country region, there is a specific site on Microsoft Pages which allows you really to double check is it available or not. And then about licensing is always the question for Teams audio conferencing. The audio conferencing licenses are available specifically as a part of Office 365 E5 subscription or as an add-on service for a Microsoft 365 Business Standard, 365 E1 or Office 365 E3 subscription. Then the next question is always coming up is, do I need to purchase a communications credit for the users who are assigned audio conferencing licenses? So communications credits are a convenient way to pay for audio conferencing and calling plan minutes in that case. So this gives you just a few parts what is really necessary to work through the prerequisites when we are talking about audio conferencing. Next we take a look on the core deployment decisions for audio conferencing. Obviously we need to think about the administrator roles. So specifically we can also use custom administrator roles in Azure Active Directory to provide that. For the Teams administrator we need to have and we need to think specifically about conferencing bridges. That's a very important concept also we need to take a closer look to, because conferencing bridges let the people call into meetings using the specific phone, and you can use the default settings for conferencing bridges or change the phone numbers, for example, like toll and toll-free, and other settings such as PIN or the languages that are used. Further, we need to have a discussion about default and alternate languages that are available for the conferencing bridges itself. The conferencing bridges settings are specifically including a default, alternate language, a PIN that is required, an entry and exit notification, or something else that you can really configure inside of this configuration. Then the dial-in phone numbers settings for users who lead meetings, for example. So after you create a conferencing bridge, you really need to set a toll and or toll-free numbers that the users who lead meetings will use in that case. To provide also toll-free conferences, bridge phone numbers and support conferencing dial-outs, international phone numbers need to be set up, and you must set up the communications credit for your organization. That's an important topic what you need to do in that case. Also, we need to go through a few deployment decisions that we need to do additionally. The outbound calling restriction policies, the dial plans, and specifically the monitoring and troubleshooting meeting and call quality. In case of the outbound calling restriction policies, you as an administrator can use the outbound call controls to restrict the type of auto conferencing. So you can specifically limit here all the functionalities there. So then the dial plans as part of the phone system in 365, and it's a set of normalization rules that basically is in the alternate formats, typically E164 format, for the call authorization and call routing. Then Teams gives you the two ways I already mentioned a lot inside of this virtual series, the call analytics and the call quality dashboard. So with this specific topic you really are able to get really most of the insights you need for your whole deployment and all the stuff. Let's also see a short part in the live events benefits. Obviously live events, it's the biggest benefit that you can scale up really to 10,000 participants and can include all hands meetings and public webcasts, for example. If instead you want your audience to view the event in Microsoft Teams, you can also create the event so your viewers can join and watch from the Microsoft Teams perspective as well. So this gives you a great option really to one-to-many communications, host leading the interactions, and the Q&A and the jammer conversations that gives you a real great capability to work with exactly this topic. And with Jammer you get a great way if you integrate this in live events, because using live events in Jammer can provide you Office 365 users with the ability to produce the live events directly, also in the Jammer app. And with built-in discussions for use before, during and after the event. The live events support to 10,000 attendees in the moment, as I already mentioned, from anywhere using attendees device or computer. So the Jammer network needs to have some group requirements for live events. So to host a live event in Jammer, your organization must have an enforced Office 365 identity selected, and you must using Office 365 connected Jammer groups for that reason. On the other hand, we have the event must be held in either a public Jammer Office 365 connected group or a private Jammer Office 365 connected group that includes everyone who will be invited to the live event. Or the all company group, and that's the thing, can't be used for live events. You also can broadcast live events in Jammer. So there are specifically two production methods you can use to choose from the broadcasting in live event in Jammer. So an external app or device, and using Microsoft Teams. So producing it with an external app or device is that you have your own hardware, cameras, audio stations, and all of this stuff, processing recorders and so on. So this is one option that you can use specifically, and on the other hand, obviously, to use it in Teams. So you use a standard tool set, a webcam, headset, what is connected to it, and you are allowed really to work with this setup in a very easy way to go also over Jammer. So you have two options as well here, to go to Teams itself or to work through the Jammer integration. Teams delivers chat-based collaboration, calling meetings and live events, so you can expand the audience of your specific meeting. So Teams live events is an extension of Teams meetings that enables you to broadcast video and meeting content to really a large audience. So this gives you a lot of great opportunities, so the attendees can watch the live or recorded events in Jammer, Teams or Stream, and can interact with the presenter using moderated Q&A or conversation. You see the different stages and the organization inside of the toolset on the slides. If we see the scheduling, the production methods, and the Microsoft Stream platform in the backend with the ECDN, for example. The ECDN, the Enterprise Content Delivery Network, enables you really to take a video content from the internet and distribute it through your enterprise without impacting network performance. So when a corporate office has a large number of concurrent viewers watching the same video content being streamed from the internet, such as a live broadcast, a ECDN relieves a network bottleneck associated with delivering that video content. Without an ECDN, each viewer downloads the same stream from an external content delivery network, which can overload the ISP links and stress the corporate network resources serving the video traffic. In other words, without an ECDN, every single viewer has a connection to the originating server that is downloading the video content, so which means that all the viewers' connections are downloading exactly the same bytes. So to accommodate that level of network traffic, organizations really must buy larger internet pipes from their ISPs, which can be very expensive in that case. So, and because all traffic from the internet goes through the corporate firewall, you need to buy bigger firewalls to inspect the content, which also increases the network costs. However, when ECDN servers are deployed inside your corporate firewalls, you can reduce the amount of network resources need to serve the same amount of traffic. Because with ECDNs you only need to download the video content from the originating server once for each ECDN service that you have deployed. So all the viewers get the content from the ECDN service over the LAN, which significantly reduces the required WAN bandwidth. There are some vendors in the game, that's Hive, Collective and Ramp, that are supported from the Microsoft platform, and you can see that here specifically in this part. Teams Live events are also considered as the next version of, let's say, the Skype meeting broadcast, and will eventually replace the capabilities provided in the Skype meeting broadcast. So at this point, Microsoft will continue to support the Skype meeting broadcast for users who are using Skype for Business in their organization, with no disruption in the service for new or future events. Like we work with Jammer, we have the same topics if we produce live events with Teams. So we have Teams as a production tool, so plug and play your laptop. Today with the cameras from different vendors like Canon and so on, it's quite easy as well to use it directly out of the box as like a webcam, and it's a very lightweight option for presenters with a short mic from Rode, for example, with a mobile phone or anything like that. It's a quite easy way really to produce a live event. Or you use an external app or device, for example, that with a software encoder via the Microsoft Stream option. So you can have, for example, media mixers, professional microphones, cameras and so on, and to bring that all together in this experience, and gives you a great capability for big events you want to launch with the live events feature set. That's also a great method for publications, product launches and other bigger events inside an organization, or to publish it outside of your network of your organization. Next we go through the event group roles. We have basically 4 roles. The organizer in general schedules a live event and ensures that the event is set up right with the permissions, with the attendees and a specific event group. So what you can do there is to create a live event, sets the attendee permissions, the production method, what we have discussed a few minutes ago, invites attendees, to select event group members, and you are able to manage your reports generated after event is over. A producer, that's a host. You make sure that the attendees have a great experience in BASIC. You start and stop the live event, you share their own video, participant video, or you share active desktop or window, and you select the specific layouts. As the presenter, basically you present. That's about audio, video, screen sharing to a live event, or you moderate a Q&A. So about a short side note here, as also written here on the slide deck, the presenters can only share audio, video or screen, desktop or window in live events produced in Teams. Because to bring the other hardware in the game, that's not available actually. The attendee, I think I don't need to explain a lot about the attendee. You are the viewer and you watch the event using the DVR controls, and you can be anonymously or authenticated, and obviously you can participate in a Q&A. On this screenshot you see how you can create and schedule live events. So really Teams provides you a great interface as an organizer to create an event with the appropriate attendee permissions, the designated event team members and the production method, what we have talked about. So to do this, the organizer really chooses how to add a presenter and sets the appropriate permissions. That's similar to presenting in regular team meetings. So if the live event was created within a Jammer group, we have already discussed it, the live event attendees will be able to use Jammer conversations for interacting with the people in the event. A license is required to participate in a live event as an authenticated user, but this requirements depends really on your production method. Like for events produced in Teams, the user must be assigned a Teams license, and for events produced with an external app or device, the user must be assigned a Stream license. So let's go short to produce a live event using Teams. There's a very important note on this slide. Once a live event ends, it cannot be restarted. This is a big problem also I already had in the past when you crash your session or anything like that and you need to restart it. That's a problem. You can't do that. So to produce a live event using Teams, it's quite easy. Just select the calendar, the live event, join. And if your event is taking place in a large room, you might want to use the auditorium mode to enhance the audio for the remote attendees and allow them to hear things like laughter, applause, or whatever from the live audience, obviously. Just turn on the auditorium mode toggle to enable it. If you are producing in Teams, turn on your camera, select your camera feed at the bottom of the screen to preview it in your queue on the left before sending it to the live event on the right. So you have a great control really to work with the preview and what's live actually on top on stage. Then select live to send the feed from the preview to the live event. Start it and you're going on. So if you stop sharing a video by turning off your camera, for example, everyone will see the live event will resume in a moment. So to share your desktop or a window, just select the share option as you already know. To queue another video feed, you'll need other presenters to join the event. So their feeds will show up on the bottom of your screen. This is the same procedure as well if you want to present a video over that. If you're producing your event from an auditorium and there is an in-room audience whose reactions like laughter, clapping, or you want to capture in the live event, you can turn off the noise cancellation. That's really a great feature that I also have worked a lot with that. So just select the device settings and then turn off the noise cancellation from the device settings pane. To ask the presenter to join a live event, really select the participants and find the person you want to join. That's quite an easy part here. And if you ask someone to join, they'll join as a presenter. So meaning they can speak, they share the screen, they participate in the events group meeting chat and moderate the Q&A. So anyone you ask to join will be removed from the event group meeting chat after the meeting. To end it, I think it's easy. Just click the end button. In the following figure, or better saying in the screenshot, we see an actual live event in Teams. So in Teams, if you want to present that, just select join to join the event as a presenter. And from outside of Teams, you can just select the join link to open the live event in Teams. So that's also a great capability what you get with that topic. You get different links that you already can send over to the people they need to attend in the live event itself, so that you can say, okay, this is an attendee, this is a presenter, and all of that stuff, or maybe the one who answers the question in the Q&A board. So this gives you also a lot of control for you as the organizer of a live event, that you be able that everyone jumps into the live event with the right permissions in that game. Another topic is to invite attendees to a live Teams event in that case. So you as a live event organizer is one of your responsibilities, are obviously inviting the attendees. So in Teams, just select the calendar meetings button on the left side of the app, then select the event, and for events that are produced in Teams, select get link to copy the live event link, so you can share it with the attendees as you see fit, send in the Teams channel, an email, a website like SharePoint, or add it to a collaboration group, for example. So you could even send it in a calendar invitation from Outlook or any other email program, obviously. Your attendees will be able to watch the event in Teams, like the desktop application in Windows or Mac, on the web, and on the mobile, obviously. If you don't have Teams, you can also use a browser like Chrome, Firefox, the Edge, that are supporting that specific scenario. Another question is who can attend live events. It's really depending on whether the event is public or private. The attendees in live events also may be included are specific groups of people, all employees of a company, or a public anonymous user, for example. That are the different capabilities which you can work with. So you can just create live events whether your audience, team or community resides using Microsoft Stream, Teams or Jammer, for example. Next we come to the call analytics functionality. So we change from broad using, presenting and all the stuff. We go to the technical topics as well inside of Microsoft Teams. So we find the call analytics specifically in the Teams Admin Center, where we have all the necessary information about devices, networks, and connectivity related to specific calls and meetings for each user. So you can answer, for example, the following questions. Why did a user have a poor call this afternoon? Using call analytics, you as an administrator or a trained help desk agent can investigate the device, the network, the connectivity, and obviously other factors that are related to the call to troubleshoot the call quality and the connection problems. You also get additional information about a given call session, including detailed media and also networking statistics. You can also have employees who are not administrators, such as a help desk agent from an external vendor, to use the call analytics by assigning them the permissions, but they can't access the rest of the admin center specifically. Where call analytics is designed to help admins and help desk agents to troubleshoot call quality problems with a specific call, the call quality dashboard, the CQD, is designed to help Teams admins and network engineers to optimize the network. So CQD shifts the focus from a specific user and instead looks at to aggregate information for an entire Teams organization. Maybe one user's poor quality is due to a network issue that is also affecting many other users. So the user's individual call experience is not visible in CQD, but the overall quality of calls made using Teams is captured. With the CQD, overall patterns maybe become apparent, so allowing network engineers to make informed assessments of call quality. CQD also provides reports of call quality metrics that give you really a great insight into overall call quality, or the server and client streams and the voice quality service level agreements. That's really a great tool set for, and to users with the following roles as we see can access the call quality dashboard. Obviously the global administrator, global reader, Sky for Business admin, the team service admin, the communication admins, support engineers, specialists, and the reports reader itself. So you have really a great capability to delegate a granular permission set to use the call quality dashboard itself and to use it inside of your organization. In the next section we will start to manage phone numbers. It's also an important topic that we need to really go forward and to discuss it, that you have all the information also for that in your hands and to work with that on your project. Microsoft Teams includes cloud voice capabilities that are delivered from the Microsoft 365 and to provide a private branch exchange, PBX functionality and options for connecting to the public switch telephone systems. The Microsoft technology that is really enables call control and PBX capabilities is titled the phone system. The phone system in Microsoft Teams allows users really to place and receive calls, transfer calls and mute or unmute calls, and calling in Teams support really basic phone system features such as call answering, initiating, with integrated dial pads, call holding and a lot of other features of that. Obviously, before we come to the service phone numbers, we also need to discuss short which PSTN connectivity solutions are in the game. We have the calling plan. This establishes and receives calls directly through the Office 365 phone system, and the direct routing, which connects your current on-premises PBX infrastructure with the Office 365 phone system by using the direct routing. Then we need to talk about the calling plans. There are two plans, basically the domestic calling plan and the domestic and international calling plan. So I think that's pretty clear what this means in that case. You need to see, is the calling plan available in your country and region? You can see that on the Microsoft documentation website. If your organization has an on-premises PSTN connectivity solution, the direct routing enables you to connect a supported session border controller to the Microsoft phone system. So the direct routing enables you really to use any PSTN trunk with your Microsoft phone system in BASIC. Direct routing solution is deployed in an organization when you, for example, have a Microsoft calling plan is not available. The organization requires connection to a third-party analog device or a call center, and the organization maybe has an existing contract with a PSTN carrier in that case. Now we come to the numbers. So we have typically two different types of phone numbers for a specific purpose. There are the user numbers that are assigned to the users in your organization for any calling purposes, and there are the service numbers. Specifically, these numbers are assigned to services such as the audio conferencing, auto attendance, call queues, and the service numbers, which have a higher concurrent call capacity than user numbers, will vary by the country, region, and the type of the number, where it's a toll or a toll-free number. So really take a closer look on the different kinds of phone numbers and the usage of calling plans on the Microsoft website itself. You can obviously port and transfer existing numbers from your current service provider or phone carrier, and you can use also a request form for new numbers that you get new numbers inside of that case. That's basic stuff what you really need to know about this service number and about basic information about the phone system of the Microsoft 365 service. In the next demonstration I will give you a short advice or an insight how you can work and to get new phone numbers for your users. First of all, before we get new phone numbers, we will take a short look on the configuration on this tenant. You see already the users with assigned phone numbers. This is our existing system. And for example, if I check this here, I see the business phone number in our configuration. So this is a phone number type that comes from on-premises and is assigned to me. So I also can see directly here my call history, from whom I was calling, to which people, and how it works for me in the state. I have 19 good calls in that part. So I have exactly that. So here we have the assigned phone number to a user, for example, and as you see here the different numbers as well. And if we take a closer look to the configuration here is we don't have any phone numbers here in that case because we received this from a local provider that's called ZipCall here in Switzerland. From them we get all the information because we connect to a session border controller to them. So there's also the capability that you can get the numbers over this way with a local service provider that provides you the phone numbers in your region. On the other hand, what you see as well here is a dial-in plan summary, what we have in that part, and we can see here under the direct routing exactly the session border controller which we use for our communication in that case. And we see also our voice routings to the local route and to the SIP call provider. That is the session border controller that is enrolled here. See here the Teams and SIP call CH, that's the local provider in our case. We can also see the routing policies in that case. We can just go there inside. We have this applied here, and behind we have the PSTN configuration for the specific provider. We also use the phone numbers like our service number here exactly from this pool. So we also can build here all the call queues, what you need, and all the stuff. Also the auto attendance configuration, the call park policies, we use there the standard one, and the specific calling policy. So allow calling, disallow calling, this is what you can do in your environment. And also the caller ID policy we take to default, so we don't manipulate our number. That's a specific thing what we do here inside of this environment. So normally when you work on a new tenant and you want to get a new number, obviously you need to assign a phone system license to your user that you can receive as well new phone numbers. If I go to the new tenant and say okay, for example here in my case I go to the same place for numbers because I don't want to buy now numbers. I just add here and say, for example, new corporate numbers for example corp. Just provide here a friendly name, that's the same. And then I see also where the numbers are available. So let's take a close look. There's something here in Switzerland. Yes. And we see as well here that we have a call queue, a toll call queue. So we get asked, there is just Zurich in the game, and then we can choose the area code for this specific topic, and then we choose the quantity. If I now go and say, for example, I have 100 that I can request in that case. So if I do, for example, 10, I have 90% remaining. Obviously the expected result right now, because I don't have a phone system license specifically on this tenant, it will tell me that I have no phone system license applied to the user. So this is the expected result, just that you know that. So but just see that, and that's the information I was waiting for, that a phone system license is missing. So we have also gathered all the required information together, that we know exactly what we need to do. But over this way I can see the numbers, I can decide the numbers, and I write the confirmation on that, and then I'm able to request new numbers. On the other hand, if I am in the voice, we see exactly here specific, and if I want to know about what's happening and specific on the voice part, I can go to the analytics and reports section as well to see all the different settings and using reports. So I also can say, okay, for example, I want to have the PSTN blocked users, the PSTN minutes and SMS, and the PSTN and SMS like this, or specifically the team usage itself. This is the general analytics part, but I can also jump over to the call part. So I just need to sign in. And I can see here all the call actions that are applied on my system. So I just go to Microsoft Teams, but we are Teams only in that topic. And it also comes up that I have the capability to go through the Power BI report templates to directly make more investigations, more stuff, and all of that. So, and I have here the overall call quality in the place, where I see the audio streams, the daily trends, then the server, the client monthly trend, and the client monthly trend as well. So I can jump over to the whole stuff. There is no server client topic here, so I can see the wired outside information, and I can see all the specific subnets that was working on and how was the quality of the different calls. Also about Wi-Fi. In our case there is no Wi-Fi defined in that case, including the Wi-Fi inside subnets. If you have that, obviously it gives you a great capability to see and arrange the call quality in your environment. Also the client-to-client communication, it's also the same stuff here in that case. You can also go through the voice quality SLA. If you want to have that in specific case, you can prepare that for your specific stuff. Also you can just jump into a client version report, for example, that you'll see which clients are used specifically inside of the organization. You see here, for example, Teams on Android, Teams on Windows, which client app version is in the game, and so you can analyze as well your call topics in that case. Also the my call reports, I can also see here the different things about the callings in the month and in the region, also by the date and region, the specific location that was used, and obviously based on the user itself. So you see here directly the ratings and all the stuff that was done inside of this organization. You can also use a lot of more, but I don't want to click right now in every report. You can do it yourself in your environment when you go ahead with that. You can also go in a detailed report section where you can build and see all the different calls, audio streams in that case, and go really in the detailed information. Obviously you can go back on this part. So you can just go here. I can also download and export the tree, and I also can here build up different measurements that I want to use in my call quality environment. Okay, that's basically the stuff what we need to know about the getting a new phone number, and also how a direct routing implementation could work where you receive the call numbers from an external provider, and the specific assignment inside of the user section where it's done, where we get the package from the provider and put it there. On the other hand, what I have shown you, how you can, for example, go in the usage report sections to really go ahead and check your call quality and the new gathered numbers what you have from your provider. That's a great part of it, and hopefully it gives you an idea how you can work with the phone instructions. Obviously there are a lot of more functionality, but to pack it right now in the demos it would be too much. You can port or transfer phone numbers, obviously. So if you need 99 or fewer phone numbers, you can just port it with the wizard in the Microsoft Teams Admin Center. You can create this port order or transfer order from your phone numbers to Microsoft Teams. If you need more, or if you have any trouble that maybe isn't available in your country or region, then you can download the LOA for your country or region. You can complete the specific form and you can send it to the PSTN service desk of your specific region, and they will help you out. It's a fast moving and easy forward process. We can work through this process. So this is just a summary about how you can work. Use supported wizard in Microsoft Teams Admin Center to transfer the phone numbers. And after you port your phone numbers to Teams, Microsoft will become your service provider. And it will bill you for those phone numbers. Just a short side note, currently you can use this wizard to get phone numbers for the United Kingdom, United States and Canada. So to get phone numbers for other countries or and regions, you can manually submit a port order. You can download this specifically from the drop-down list to manage phone numbers for your organization in specific. To connect to the public switch telephone network PSTN, you obviously need to purchase a Microsoft calling plan. A Microsoft calling plan in BASIC is an all-in cloud solution with Microsoft as your PSTN carrier itself. And you use your existing phone infrastructure for on-premises PSTN connectivity. Obviously you need to have supported session border controllers, one or more telephony trunks connected to the SBC, the Office 365 tenant where you organize your teams and you're located. You must be homed in Microsoft Teams. In a hybrid environment, on-premise Skype for Business users cannot be enabled for voice in Microsoft Teams, for example. Your domains must be configured, your public FQDNs, your certificates, and the connection points need to be established. Also, like the media transport profiles and the media traffic code that need all to be in place that you can work with that. Based on the network topology that the tenant administrator defines, the Teams client provides network connectivity information in a request to the location information service list called. If there's a match, the list returns a location to the client. So this location data is transmitted back to the client. The Teams client includes location data that's a part of an emergency call. So this data is then used by the emergency service provider to determine the appropriate public safety answering point, PSAP, and route the call to the PSAP, which allows the PSP dispatcher to obtain the caller's location. For the dynamic emergency calling, the following things must occur. The network administrator, you need to configure the settings and the list to create a network emergency location map. Specifically for direct routing, additional configuration is obviously required to route the emergency calls and possibly to a partner connectivity. So the administrator, you, must configure connection to an emergency route service. Provider or configure the session border controller for an emergency location identification number. During startup and periodically afterwards, or when a network connection is changed, the team client sends a location request that contains its network connectivity information to the network settings and the list. So if there is a network settings side match, the emergency calling policies are returned to the Teams client from that side. If there is a list match, an emergency location from the network element, the Teams client is connected to its returned to the Teams client. So when the Teams client makes an emergency call, the emergency location is conveyed to the PSTN network. So for direct routing, you need to configure the session border controller to send the emergency calls to the ERS provider or configure the SBC alien application. So in the next section of this module, we go through the management of the phone system for Microsoft Teams itself. Microsoft Teams provides features to enhance the user experience and create auto attendees to manage calls. Some of these features have been used in telephony solutions for decades and provide a way to configure your Teams environment to keep providing these specific capabilities. So we have specifically the phone system that's as a service or with service, and the phone system can be used for the services and voicemail, like auto attendance. What an auto attendant is, it can be created to menu system for your organization and to let external internal callers move through the system to locate, place or transfer the calls. The call queues, the call queue greetings can be used when someone calls into a phone number for your organization. The greetings include the ability to automatically put the calls on hold and the ability to search, for example, to the next available call agent. And the voicemail, which is typical functionality. So that's when you get a phone system license for a user, that user is able to get voicemail that has been left by callers. So that's an automatic setup and provisioned for users after you assign to a phone system license and a phone number to them. Before we come to add, change or remove an emergency location for our organization, we need to talk short what is it and what it's doing for us. So an emergency location may be referred to a civic address, street address or a physical address. So it is the street or civic address of a place of business for your organization that is used to route the emergency calls to the appropriate dispatch authorities and to assist in locating the emergency caller. So if your organization has multiple physical locations, you'll need more than one emergency location. So validating an emergency address involves making sure that it's legitimate and correctly formatted for the emergent response service. It is possible to add and save an emergency location that is not validated, but only validated locations can be associated with a user. So after an emergency location is validated and saved, you can assign it to a user. To change an emergency location that is saved and validated, you must just create a new one. An emergency location is associated with a place to give a more exact location within a building. So a place is typically a floor, a building wing, or office number where the user is located. So you can have an unlimited number of places associated with an emergency address. When you assign an emergency location to a user, you will assign the location ID references the location itself. So the location ID includes the referenced emergency address like the street or the civic address. A default place is included with an emergency location for cases in which in-building places are not needed, for example. Emergency locations and places are used when routing emergency calls to the appropriate dispatch center for the purpose of dispatching emergency first responders. And when Teams user dials an emergency number, how the call is routed to the serving public safety answering PSP varies by the country and region. So in some countries, regions such as the US and the United Kingdom, the calls are first screened to determine the current location of the user before connecting the call to the appropriate dispatch center. In other countries, for example, or regions, calls are routed directly to the dispatch center serving the phone number associated with the emergency caller. So when adding an emergency location for your organization, I really recommend the following steps. So plan for the emergency locations, make a list of physical addresses before deciding an emergency location, add the emergency location and get the phone numbers, assign the phone numbers. To add an emergency location, it's quite easy. You go just to the Microsoft Teams Admin Center, Locations, Emergency Addresses and click Add and associate the correct information to that. To change that is the same way, and to remove it is also a quite easy process. Obviously you can do it also over PowerShell with new -cs online list civic address. That's one capability to add a new one. And with the set cs online list civic address you can also change that. To remove it, I think it's clear. You need to use the remove -cs online list civic address PowerShell CMD-led. If an organization uses calling plans or deployed phone system direct routing, you can use the emergency calling policy in Microsoft Teams to define what happens when a Teams user in your organization makes an emergency call. So for users you can use the global, the org-wide default policy, or obviously create a new custom policy. Users will get automatically the global policy unless you create a new custom policy and assign that to them. Keep in mind that you can edit the settings in the global policy, but you can't rename or delete it. So for network sites you create and assign custom policies. So if you assigned an emergency calling policy to a network site and to a user, and if that user is at the network site, the policy that's assigned to the network site overrides the policy that's assigned to the user. Obviously, it's essential that you as a Teams administrator know how to troubleshoot the Microsoft Teams client, because the Teams client, the network, and any number of configuration issues in Microsoft Teams Admin Center can disrupt your users from effectively sending and receiving calls and participating in Teams meetings. Just imagine your Teams meetings are not available during an important board meeting where remote users are required to participate. The ability to investigate these issues and find a proper solution is a key task for you as a Teams administrator. For example, users might have issues receiving messages or calls if they are using older versions of Teams or have logged in with other applications. There are 3 types of log files automatically produced by the client that can be leveraged to assist you in the troubleshooting of Microsoft Teams. As you can see here, that's the debug logs, the media logs, and the desktop logs. So we can see directly which options are available on the different platforms. On the web you can go through the debug, the Windows, debug desktop and media log file, Mac OS X the same, and Linux all the same. It's a little bit difficult on the iOS and the Android platform, but you can do it also with other tool sets to work exactly with these clients in that case. The media logs contains basically diagnostic data about video, audio, and screen sharing. Well, they are required for the support cases and only upon request, and they can only be inspected by Microsoft. The following table, as you see here, gives you a log location part. So under Windows you have the most of that under the app data. Under the Mac OS X you are on the library, application support, Microsoft Teams media stack. And under Linux you have the config, Microsoft Teams media stack, and the Skylib blog files on that. The desktop logs, which are also known as the bootstrapper logs, contain log data that occurs between the desktop client and the browser, for example. Like media logs, these logs are only required if requested by Microsoft. So the logs are text-based and can be read using a text-based editor. That's a common scenario what you can use from the log side perspective. Obviously the debug logs or diagnostic logs, which are also known as diagnostic logs, they are brought to you by browser-based clients and the Windows and Mac desktop clients. The logs are text-based and are read from the bottom up, so they can be read using a text editor, Visual Studio Code for example. And it shows information about the logins, the connection requests to the middle tier services, and the call and conversation information. That's a great way to do. How you can go for that in Windows, it's a Ctrl-Alt-Shift+1, and the log file folder is the user profile downloads, and the Mac OS X is the option button Command+Shift+1 for downloads, and on the browser is Ctrl-Alt-Shift+1, and you will be prompted to save the debug logs to the default save location. So what are cloud attendants? Basically the phone system provides auto attendants which can be used to let external and internal callers move through a menu system to locate and place or transfer calls to other departments in your organization. An auto attendant is most often a node in a system giving a caller a series of voice prompts or audio files they hear instead of human operators. So when people call a number of associated with a system by using a phone keypad, TTMF, or speech recognition, for example, the choices they make can also redirect the call to another auto attendant or to a call queue, for example. So you can provide informational greetings, corporate menus, direct research options, to leave a message for an organization, to provide multiple language prompts, text-to-speech, speech recognition, and the holiday and business hours, for example, or to transfer calls to an operator, other user, call queues, or an auto attendant. So it supports also a shared voicemail for callers to leave a message for the organization itself. In the next demonstration we will take a closer look to how to set up a cloud auto attendant. So in this demonstration I will show you how you can create a new auto attendant. As I'm here on our tenant, for example, I have already 2 auto attendants that are enabled here, and we just go short through the settings. We see here the main number that is based off here, and we have specifically here the phone number that is assigned. There is no operator assigned in that case. We define a time zone and a specific language. On the other hand, we play a specific audio file. You can also work with a typed greeting message in that case. It works also probably for many things. Then afterwards, we also can route the call. We redirect the call to a voice app. So that's a specific main phone number here in that case. Then we go further and we define the business hours which the business runs in between 8 a.m. and noon, and then after the break until 5 o'clock p.m. So you can really align that for your complete week, that you also store what happens in which case, and what message also is applied to the specific time zone. Then on the other hand, we have a Christmas setting, for example, from the last year here, that we say, okay, we have, for example, a specific audio file applied to the Christmas vacations that we play here, that the business is closed, and afterwards we redirect it to a person in an organization, and that's specifically the voicemail what we have in our organization itself. That's all the settings what we had already here on that case, and let's just save it to see here the settings of the holiday. Obviously you can do in the whole call settings, the holiday call settings in your environment, play different files, different things, what you prefer to do really here in that case. Then we include in the find people option that we can select the whole organizations directory, so all online users, and we don't exclude any account of that. On the other hand, the resource account for the main number is also behind of that. Just see that here, and it's the specific phone number that is done in that case. So that's the specific part. We also have here a line occupied setting that also can be another one in that case, just with a different action what we do there. So let's just start to create a new one, to say, okay, we add, for example, a new one. I just take an example number right now. That's for this example it's enough. We took the time frame what we want to use, so the time zone here, the specific language. Let's say, okay, I'm living in Switzerland, for example. There is nothing available there, so we need to put German in that case, and we also can enable the voice inputs for the auto attendant. Obviously we need to provide a name. I say, wait, give me a second, that's the main number, for example. So then we go to the next setting. We say, okay, the first play is a greeting message. In my case I use that here. I just say to welcome to our company, for example. And this will be interpreted by the Teams configuration, and you will hear that. Maybe it doesn't sound really great, and really use an audio file to play it specifically. Then the first thing what we do is we play a menu options, for example. Okay, welcome to the company's menu, for example. And then we can say, okay, we assign a dialing key. For example, we say it's number 1. We redirect it specifically to a voice app, and we do it here for a specific resource account. Also, what we can do, we can put it, for example, to a voicemail. Let's say, for example, for the team CUX, for example, there's nothing there. And let's choose the HR team, for example, that it's going to be there. Also, make a voicemail transcript in that case. I can assign an additional one. So let's say this is number 2. I put it to an external phone number. And then assign an additional key that we can use in that specific manner. So with this you can bring up a complete menu in the game. Also I can say dial by a name or dial by a specific extension, for example. Obviously I didn't have a dialing key that with an entry that is empty, so we dial by the name. The voice command is here, scaled voice, and on the other hand we have it here external, for example. This I remove specifically from this menu in the moment. So we can go ahead. Then we define our business hours for the auto attendant. I just make it here as an example. Let's say we start in the morning, 8 a.m. Here the same, also the same, and for example as well here on 8 o'clock and on Friday as well. So, and we put it correctly to, let's say, 6 p.m. we are working in this environment. Also on Sundays, a specific service exactly on that. So on Wednesday we have a longer period, for example, and then we have again the 5 p.m. sessions in that part. Okay, let's go. And also we can here by a greeting message, we can then direct route the call and so on, what we want in that case. Then we go ahead to define the Christmas time, for example, Christmas and New Year. So Christmas I will call it, as I would type Happy Christmas. And we redirect the call specifically to a voicemail, also to, let's say, the same. In my environment I have exactly this HR team, and say okay, I save it there. Then find the people, all online users, none, click just yes, and we need to obviously have resource accounts in that game. Let's call it test here, and we need to add a new one. So we just have this here, and we say this is an auto-attended resource account. Obviously you can do the same inside of your infrastructure and all around of that, and you can work with all the typical things here to configure it to present your auto attendant. Let's discuss how you can call, park and retrieve in Microsoft Teams. Basically, call, park and retrieve is a feature that lets you or the user place a call on hold. When a call is parked, the service generates a unique code, as we see there in this part, for the call retrieval. So the user who parked the call or someone else, they can use the code with a supported app or device to retrieve the call itself. There are some of the common scenarios for using call park. A receptionist parks a call for someone working in a factory, and the receptionist then announces the call and the code number over the public address system, for example. The user who the call is for can then pick up a Teams phone on the factory floor and enter the code to retrieve the call. Another one is a user parks a call on a mobile device because the device battery is running out of power, and the user can enter the code to retrieve the call from a Teams desk phone, for example. Another example could be a support representative parks a customer call and sends an announcement on the Teams channel for an expert, for example, to retrieve the call and help the customer itself. An expert enters the code in Teams client to retrieve the call, and then we can work through the whole process. So to park and retrieve calls, a user must be an enterprise voice user and must be included in a call park policy itself. To place a call on hold on one device and pick up it from another device is also known as call parking. So what I mentioned. You see here in the screenshot how it could work. In your call window you can select the call park option. So after you park the call, Teams will give you a unique code you can use to retrieve the call. If someone else is retrieving the call, copy the code and share it with them. So it's also capability to go forward to another phone, for example, as well. So to retrieve a parked call, go to the speed dial tab, click unpark and enter the park code itself. If no one picks up the park call within 5 minutes, it will ring again. That's a cool really feature you can work with. To create and to assign a new call park policy, you can use also the new CS Teams call park policy CMDLAT and the Grand CS Teams call park policy PowerShell CMDLAT. That gives you a lot of control about this as well. As an administrator, you can use policies to control in specific Teams features that are available. This we have already heard about. For example, the calling policies, the meeting policies, the messaging policies, just to name a few of them what we already heard. So you have different types of user with unique needs and custom policies what you need to do inside of your organization. So if you want to manage, for example, calling policies in Microsoft Teams really help you to determine which calling and call forwarding features will be available for your users. These policies determine whether the user can make private calls, use call forwarding, or simultaneous ringing to other users or external phone numbers, like route calls to voicemail, send calls to call groups, and use the delegation for inbound and outbound calls, and many more options. While a default global policy is always created automatically, administrators like you can create always a custom policy on this specific part. A caller ID policy in Microsoft Teams can help you to change or block the caller. It's set up by default so that when a Teams user calls a PSTN phone, their phone number is visible. Conversely, the phone number of PSTN callers can be seen when they call a team user, for example. Caller ID policies are managed in the Microsoft Teams Admin Center under the Voice section, under Caller ID policies. You can choose the global org-wide policy or obviously create a new one with your preferences. So you have different options to, for example, block incoming caller IDs, user that can override the caller ID policy, or you can replace a caller ID. That displays the user numbers, set their service phone number to display as the caller ID, or display the caller ID as anonymous. The service number to use to replace the caller ID, this is a specific option that's available when you choose the service number in the replace caller ID. So you have great options to really work with that. You can do that over the Grand CS calling line identity, you can work with that specific PowerShell CMD-led to do that on the PowerShell way. Direct routing uses SIP options sent by the session border controllers to monitor SBC health, so there are no actions required from the tenant administrator to enable the SIP options monitoring. The collected information is taken into the consideration when routing decisions are made. So for example, if for a specific user there are several SBCs available to route a call, the direct routing considers the SIP options information received from each SBC to determine routing. The direct routing health dashboard can help you to monitor the connection between your session border controller and the direct routing interface. So to see the health dashboard, you must sign into your Microsoft Teams Admin Center, and then you can monitor the information about your SBC, the telephony service, as well as the network parameters between your SBC and the direct routing interface. The dashboard provides information about potential issues such as the reasons for dropped calls as well as the status of the connected SBCs, including detailed information on the SBCs and their overall health. The information regarding the overall health of the connected SBCs includes, for example, the direct routing summary, the SBC, the FQDN of the paired SBC, and the network effectiveness ratio, which compares the number of calls sent versus the number of calls delivered to the recipient. The network effectiveness ratio measures the ability of networks to deliver calls to the far end terminal, so accept the manual call rejections. Therefore, when the recipient rejects a call or sends it to the voicemail, the call will be considered as successfully delivered. This means that an answer message, a busy signal, or a ring with no answer are already considered successful calls, for example. The average call duration is also in game here. This parameter can help you to monitor the quality of the calls. So the average duration of a one-to-one PSTN call is 4 to 5 minutes, but this average can differ in different companies obviously. Therefore, it's recommended that you establish a baseline for the average call duration for your organization, because this parameter falls much lower below the baseline, and it will indicate that your users are having issues with the call quality or reliability and are hanging up earlier than usual. Then we have the TLS status. This parameter shows the status of the TLS connection between the direct routing and the SBC. The SIP option status, by default the SBC sends option messages every minute, although this configuration can vary for different SBC vendors. And direct routing uses the SIP option status parameters to warn administrators if the SIP options are not sent or not configured. Then we have the detailed SIP option status. This parameter provides us detailed description of any errors that occurred. We have 3 states: active, the SBC is active, warning no SIP options, and warning SIP messages aren't configured. And for last but not least, we have the concurrent call capacity. You can manually specify the limit of concurrent calls that an SBC can handle at one time by using the new or set CS online PSTN gateway command with the max concurrent sessions parameter. This parameter calculates how many calls were sent or received by direct routing using a specific SBC and compares it with the limit which has been set manually, for example. We also receive detailed information for each SBC, for example, on the health dashboard. The TLS connectivity status shows the same metric as an overall health page. The TLS connectivity live status shows the time when an SBC made a TLS connection to the direct routing service. The SIP option status, it's the same metric like the overall health page. The SIP options last check is the time when the SIP options were received the last time. The SBC status shows the overall status based on all monitored parameters. The concurrent call indicates how many concurrent calls the SBC handled. The network parameters are all network parameters that are measured from the direct routing interface to the session border controller. Like jitter, these are the milliseconds measure of delay time between two endpoints using the RTCP protocol. The packet loss, it's a measurement of packets that fail to arrive, which is computed between two endpoints. And the latency, the length of time it takes for a signal to be sent, plus the length of time it takes for that signal to be received. That's basically what you can see here, and also the network effectiveness ratio. This is the same parameter that appears on the overall health dashboard, but with the option to see the date, time, series or call direction. The next section we will monitor and analyze the service usage of our Microsoft Teams environment. In order to access the team usage reports, we need to have the following roles assigned: the Office 365 Global Admin, the Team Service Admin, the Teams Communications Admin, or the Sky for Business Admin. So the Teams reports in the Microsoft Teams Admin Center give you a great insight in how Teams is used in your organization. You can use the reports to get a view into Teams usage, like user activity, device usage, and across obviously all your organization. To view these reports, you must be the rights or the assigned to the roles I already mentioned. So basically the Teams usage report gives you the active users in Teams and channels, active channels, messages, privacy settings of Teams, and the guests in a team. The Team User Activity Report gives you a one-to-one calls and user participated in messages a user posted in a team chat, messages a user posted in a private chat, and the last activity date of a user. The Teams Device Usage Report gives you insights about the Windows user, the Mac users, the iOS users, and the Android phone users. Also we have the Teams Live Event Usage Report, which gives you the total views, the start time, event status, organizer, presenter, broad user, recording setting, and the production time. Also we have the Teams PSTN Blocked User Report and the Teams PSTN Minutes Pools report by country, region, capability, total minutes, and a lot of more information about that. Also you get the PSTN usage report calling plans and for the direct routing. And really with these reports and the capability to download them, you get a lot of many information about your infrastructure. Additional with the app usage report, you will see on the left navigation of the admin center, you get all the usage reports of the applications since the last days and different time ranges you can use, and specifically to address specific values you want to know about the usage of the different applications in your environment. What you can see in the different reports is that you can see the whole usage over the last 7, 30 or 90 days, and you also can see the trends inside of your app's usage report. And that's a great way, and you can also download it and also go over Power BI to this information to get your most information out of that, to see how it works and how it's growing, or how the problems are inside of your infrastructure. Specifically, the device usage report gives you a great insight about all the different device types that connect to your team's infrastructure. So you have basically all the information about the devices around your organization, and also the mobile devices, that how they are used on the go. The usage profiles, you can go there, which device platforms you need to support, how maybe your MDM policy or mobile application management policy needs to be aligned for the usage on a mobile device or on foreign devices from external vendors or anything like that. Another important aspect is to monitor and improve the call quality for Microsoft Teams. So you can use per-user call analytics and the call quality dashboard to find and troubleshoot the call quality problems that come up during an ongoing operation. This lets you drive performance improvements across your network. Both of these tools are in the Teams Admin Center, so the call analytics, as already explained, shows detailed information about the devices, networks, and connectivity related to specific calls and meetings for each user in Teams. Teams admin and helpdesk agents will use this information to troubleshoot the call quality and the connection problems in a specific call. CQD, the call quality dashboard, gives you a network-wide view of call quality across your whole organization. So the CQD information is about to help you to identify and fix problems. So first set up the CQD and then read the manage call and meeting quality in Teams. The call analytics and CQD run in parallel and can be used independently or together. For example, if a communication support specialist determines that they need more help troubleshooting a user's call problem, they escalate the call to a communication support engineer who has access to the additional information about the call. In turn, the communication support engineer alerts a network engineer to possible site-related issues they noticed in the call analytics. So the network engineer checks CQD to see if an overall site-related issue could be a contributing cause of the user's problem. To set up the call analytics for Microsoft Teams is just to give the permission to the support and helpdesk staff. You as the Teams admin, you have full access to all the call analytics information for all users. Microsoft have created some specialized Azure Active Directory roles that you can assign to support staff and helpdesk agents. So they can also access per user call analytics without having access to the rest of the Teams admin center. You can assign the Teams communication support specialist role to the users who should have limited view of per user call analytics, the tier 1 support, and assign the Teams communication support engineer role to users who need full access to per user call analytics in the tier 2 support. Neither role has access to the rest of the Teams admin center. You can upload a TSV or a CSV file to add building, site and tenant information. So you can add build, siting and tenant information to per user call analytics by uploading this file type. With all this information, call analytics can map IP addresses to physical locations. And you as an admin and helpdesk agents can use this information to help spot trends in call problems. For example, why are users in the same building having similar call quality problems? If you are Teams or Skype for Business admin, you can use the existing tenant and building data file from the Teams or Skype for Business call quality dashboard. First you download the file from CQD and then you can upload it to the call analytics. That's a proper tool you can work with. In the following figure you can see how you can use call analytics to troubleshoot poor quality. You see the overall section on the left side, and on the right side you see the overall and advanced debugging functionality that is included inside of this topic. So call analytics shows you each leg of a call or meeting. So for example, from a participant to a second participant. And by analyzing these details, a Teams admin like you can isolate the problem areas and identify the root cause for a poor quality. So basically you can find in the call history the meetings and calls for that user for the last 30 days. Just to bring you a completeness or a summary of that about the quality, what CQD can do for you. It really breaks down the matrix about VPN, Wi-Fi, wired or external calls, and you can have it on the building on the network level. So exactly on VPN calls and calls using TCP, UDP or a proxy, for example. Also on the call reliability, where you can identify and remediate any network or firewall problems, gain the insights of percentage of call setup and drop failures, and you can learn really the call setup and drop failures, how they occur. Also you can gather user surveys like rate my call, and also you can see where the poor experiences are occurring. Another important part is about the devices, that you learn which microphones, speakers or what is commonly used to work, and you can support on the audio, video, USB, Wi-Fi drivers that they are regularly patched and working commonly proper for the user itself. And also You learn which client types and versions are in the game, and as I already mentioned, for MDM, MAM systems or any other kind of controls, it's a very important information that you can gather that. So before we go to audio pure quality metrics, what is quality? In this specific context, quality is a combination of service metrics and the user experience. Service metrics consist of a specific client-based metric. So during each call, the client collects telemetry for the call and submits a report at the end of each call that can later be accessed in the CQD or in the per-user call analytics. These metrics include the poor stream, incoming, outgoing, the setup failure rate, the drop failure rate, and the poor stream rate. So the poor stream rate, PSR, represents the organization's overall percentage of streams that have poor quality. So this metric is meant to highlight areas where your organization can concentrate the effort to have the strongest impact toward reducing the this value and improving the user experience, which is why managed networks are the primary focus when looking at the PSR. External users are also important, obviously, but investigation differs on an organizational basis. So consider really providing best practices for external users and investigate external calls independently from the overall organization. So we see here the metrics average, like jitter is higher than 30 milliseconds, the packet loss rate higher 10% or 0.1, the round trip time bigger than 500 milliseconds, and the NMOS degradation average higher than 1.0, and the average ratio for concealed samples like higher than 7%, for example. So that's the call quality dashboard. You can just go to the Teams Admin Center and select the call quality dashboard, and it shows you all the information about the call and meeting quality at the org level for Microsoft Teams, Skype for Business Online, and the Skype for Business Server 2019. That's the supported topic that's around right now in the common set of features actually. Another great method for reporting is to use Power BI to analyze the CQD data. For the call quality dashboard, CQD reports in Teams, you can really use the Power BI option to query and report your data. You can download your CQD Power BI templates for that reason at specific. So when you open the templates in Power BI, you are prompted to sign in with your CQD admin credentials. You can customize these query templates and distribute them to anyone in your organization who has a Power BI license and the CQD admin permissions. You can also work with that on any other machine. So, but before you can use the PBIT files, you really need to install the Power BI connector for Microsoft CQD using the Microsoft Call Quality PQX file that's included in the specific download. So you also maybe need to find the per user call analytics. So to see all the call information and data for a user, you need just to go to the Teams Admin Center, and under users you can select the user and then open the call history tab on the user's profile page. Here you can find all the calls and meetings for that user for the last 30 days, and it also gives you a great option to work with.
Let's start with the Microsoft 365 Certified Teams Administrator Associate overview. As you can see on the following slide, we have a lot of different options to certify ourselves. The fundamentals part, that is the Microsoft 365 Fundamentals Certificate, that is an optional one. For us interesting on the associate level is the exam we prepare for the Teams Administrator Associate certification. But there is a lot of other certs available in the market, as you see right now, for the modern desktop, the Exchange part, the security part, or the Developer Associate. One I want to point out, this is the Teamwork Administrator Associate. That could also be interesting for you, because this also contains Teams and SharePoint. If you want to go up to the expert level, you need to certify yourself for the Enterprise Administrator Expert level. So we go through the Microsoft Teams environment. We will talk about chat, calling, and the meeting options, and specifically about Microsoft Teams and the app policies. For sure, there are different other online courses available, also an instructor-led training on your Microsoft training partner. At the end, obviously, what's our main target is to pass the MS-700 Managing Microsoft Teams exam and receive the Microsoft 365 Certified Teams Administrator Associate. Basically, we have 40 to 60 questions. So in MS-700 exam, you will not find a lab. So please answer all the questions, and there's specifically no penalty for guessing. Mark items for a review if you're not sure of your answer, but in my opinion, what I do is I only mark an item if I'm really sure that I can answer it better. If not, I work with the luck. So next, plan for 180 minutes. So some thing about 150 minutes to answer your questions. And there are sometimes a lot of other instructions, comments, score reporting. They're about 30 minutes. On the other hand, we have more than just multiple choice questions. So you have build lists, hot areas, active screen, or drag and drop elements. It's most commonly that Microsoft uses case studies, and is also in this exam, where you get detailed information on business, technical requirements, existing environment, and other related background information. The exam requires you to know about planning and configuring a Microsoft Teams environment, and it takes a lot of percentage of the whole exam, like 45 to 50%. And the different topics that are included in that is the upgrading from Skype for Business to Microsoft Teams, the planning and configuration of network settings for Microsoft Teams, the implementation of governance and lifecycle management, the configuration and management of guest access, the management of security and compliance, the deployment and management of Microsoft Teams endpoints, and the monitoring and analyzing service usage of Microsoft Teams. The second section is the management of chat, calling, and meeting options, and this takes 30 to 35%. What you need to know there is the management of chat and collaboration experiences, the management of meeting experiences, the phone number management, and the phone system management. The last section in the exam is the part of managing teams and app policies for 20 to 25%. So you need to know how to manage a team, for example, create a team, upgrade an existing resource to a team, manage privacy levels for a team, such as things, and specifically the management of org-wide team settings. On the other hand, you have the management of membership in a team, and specifically the implementation of policies for Microsoft Teams apps. I always recommend in these sessions review the actual guides of all the exam objectives on the docs.microsoft.com about your exam, that you are sure that you prepare the right things and that you are in a good condition for the exam itself.
If you want to attend to the exam, maybe it's a good option really to test your knowledge. Go to the skills that is measured, see all the requirements what you need to pass the exam. Go to the self-paced learning resources in akms.learn, dig in the deep, because you will also get a lot of the material what I discussed today with you back, and you can reverse it, you can work on it, recap all the information, and you will get a better experience on the whole process. So at the end of this virtual series, really I want to thank you very much that you attend the whole 5 days maybe. Hopefully it was a valued work for you to work through these elements, to these modules. It was a pleasure for me. Thank you very much, and see you the next time.
Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us today. I hope our participants will really benefit from it. And a very big thank you to all of our participants for being there with us throughout this series. Also, as an additional resource, let me remind you that this series on managing Microsoft Teams MS-700 will also be available for you to watch on demand at aka.ms/enablevts and aka.ms/training center. In fact, you can find more virtual training series available for your on-demand consumption there. We wish you all the very best. Have a great day. Bye.